You've done it. You've created the perfect schedule. It's color-coded, time-blocked, every single minute accounted for. And then, life happens. A meeting runs late, a task takes longer than you thought, and by Wednesday, the whole beautiful plan has just completely fallen apart. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. In fact, that perfect schedule might be the very thing setting you up for failure. Okay, let's dive into this. Does this ring a bell? You're constantly working, right? Jumping from one task to the next, but that feeling of being in control, of actually being on top of your work, it just never seems to arrive. It's like you're running on a treadmill, always moving, but never, ever getting ahead. This is a super common feeling, and it's almost always a symptom of a deeper problem in how we plan our time. The good news is, this feeling of chaos often boils down to just two core mistakes. That's it, just two. And to really understand them, we're going to look at a real-world example from a student named Philip. His struggle to balance a demanding job with learning a new skill is going to brilliantly illustrate where we all go wrong, and more importantly, how to get it right. So first, we need to tackle the biggest idea holding us back. This myth of the perfect, unbreakable schedule. Meet Philip. He's an accountant, and he's trying to learn machine learning for a career change. And this right here, this is his schedule. Now, on the surface, it looks amazing. It's organized, it's meticulous, probably even color-coded. But Philip said he could almost never stick to this for more than 2 or 3 days. You know, to an expert, a schedule this tightly packed is actually a huge red flag. Let's break down why. The first major mistake Philip is making is falling right into what we call the overscheduling trap. It looks super productive, but believe me, it's actually incredibly destructive. So, what is overscheduling? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the attempt to cram a totally unrealistic number of things into a day, packing your calendar so tightly that there is absolutely zero wiggle room, no margin for error. It's basically planning for a perfect world that simply doesn't exist. And this has some serious consequences. It creates constant stress because you feel like you're always behind. You waste a ton of mental energy just reorganizing your day when things inevitably go wrong. And, crucially, it kills your ability to get into that deep focus flow state because you're constantly looking at the clock. For Philip, a work meeting running late by just 30 minutes could throw his entire week's study plan into complete disarray. So the crucial point is this. The foundation of a schedule that actually works is having a wide margin for error. You have to build in buffers. Life is unpredictable. Your schedule needs to be able to absorb the small hits without completely collapsing. Here's a super practical rule of thumb you can start using today. Seriously. If you're new to this, take any task and estimate how long you think it will take. Now, double it. That's the amount of time you should block out. Best case, you finish early and have some free time. Worst case, life happens and you're still right on schedule. Now for the second mistake, and this one's a little more counterintuitive. It's the mistake of not picking your losses. In other words, failing to strategically choose where you're going to fall short. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but I have to get all this done. I get it. But the hard truth is an overstuffed schedule is a fantasy. It isn't real. The fact is, with that kind of plan, you are already falling behind. A schedule isn't a magic wand. Just writing it down doesn't make an impossible workload possible. This is where we need a major mindset shift. Think about it like this. If you know you can't win every single game in a season, you don't just give up. You plan to win the championship. You make strategic choices. You might sacrifice a small game today to make sure you're strong enough for the big one tomorrow. And this is the core idea. Something is going to give. That is a guarantee. The question is, are you going to be in control of what gets sacrificed? Or are you going to let circumstances make that choice for you when your whole schedule implodes? It's about taking back control, even when it means making a tough choice. So how does this actually look in practice? Well, a strategic sacrifice isn't just about randomly dropping a task. It's about identifying the root cause of your busyness, the one inefficient activity that's creating all the other work. Let's see how Philip found his. When we look closer at Philip's schedule, a pattern just jumps out. He's spending a massive amount of time, hours every single week, just consolidating and reviewing his notes. He's literally reviewing the same material 3 or 4 times because he felt it was the only way to make it stick. This reveals a much deeper inefficiency. His old way was reactive. He was just compensating for not learning well in the first place by throwing more and more review time at the problem. His new way, though, totally proactive. He decided to invest time up front in a different skill, learning how to learn more effectively during the lectures themselves. So here it was, his strategic loss. He chose to sacrifice about 3 hours of studying per week. Now, this probably felt terrifying, right? It must have felt like he was choosing to fall even further behind in the short term. But that short-term sacrifice was actually an investment. By taking that time to learn how to learn, he was setting himself up for a massive, permanent, lifelong gain in efficiency. So what happened? Did this big gamble actually pay off? Let's take a look at the long-term win. The results were just incredible. In the first week, he made that tough choice. For the first month, he really focused on those new skills. But by month 2, get this. Not only was he completely caught up, he was actually better off. He fundamentally didn't need to spend as much time studying anymore because he was so much more effective. That short-term loss was completely wiped out by the long-term gain. So let's bring it all together. Here is your new framework for a schedule that actually works. First, accept reality. You can't do everything. Second, build a realistic plan. By creating a wide margin of error, remember that double time rule? And third, identify and choose a strategic loss today that will set you up for a massive win tomorrow. And that leaves us with a final question for you to think about. Look at your own schedule, your own goals. What's the inefficient activity that you're clinging to? What short-term loss can you choose to sacrifice today in order to win your championship?